What seems also very telling to me is that these archetypal forms, these great roles, these big individuals that we see in time, these main players and main characters, are informed by the eternal. It's like a desperation of the eternal aspect, wanting to experience time through us. And it's rather desperate, but it's completely uninformed of the tragedy and the pain and the joy. It's almost a caricature. You become these great individuals consumed by these great archetypal roles that they play, and they just go crazy with it. And I just lose any attraction for people who are too big for their britches because they're pouring forth this spontaneous stuff that it's as if they're a child. And it's wonderful fun, you know. I'm a parent, and in my experience, it was just wonderful to see young people enjoy their life and be uninformed of all these things that I'm talking about and just be themselves. I really feel that at the root of life is a joyful participation in life, just to have a great time, just to have the opportunity to be a person. But in our organization, in trying to organize and make order out of all the stuff that's coming forth out of us, we end up enslaving ourselves and limiting ourselves. And you know, I think some may feel this more than others. Some may experience this entrapment more than others, and they actually become more enslaved. It seems to feed on itself. And I don't want to, you know, the archetype of the liberator or the liberated, those that are completely free, that's still an archetype too. It's still one of those eternal forms that keeps coming up over and over and over. So everything can be said to be enslaving, even the liberator, you know, even the savior. And it doesn't surprise me one bit that a lot of people are not interested in talking about any of this stuff, because it's a great feeling to be caught up in our feelings and our experience and just go and not overthink it. Too much self-analysis and we drain the life out of our existence. But this talk about Kant, or Kant, you know, I had to wrap my head around. I had to listen to it quite a few times, listen to some other stuff by Ebert, and you know, really let it sink in before I could really start looking around and seeing the understanding and seeing the reason in other people. And I've been doing this my whole life, you know, trying to understand another person and try to comprehend their reasons for what they do. But what I came into contact with is that a lot of people just don't want to understand another person's reasons for what they do. And I've met a lot of people who try to keep their reasons secret. And this seems a very common reoccurring motif, that the reason why somebody does something is usurped or enslaved by another person, taken advantage of, and manipulated. So someone feels happy, they say, oh, this guy, I can make use of this guy because they're always happy. I will put them there, and then they will serve me best in that area. And this is nothing other than enslavement. You're enslaving the happy person, which the happy person may not be aware of at all, and it may not do them harm. And you see how the seeming good in it. But I also observe, why do we need to always try to bring order and put things in a place and have everything in its place? And I've figured these things out. I'm figuring these things out. I'm coming to awareness in time through all of experiencing these things. And it's making sense to me. So I suppose that it's part of the play. And life is a grand play where we figure it out as we go along and we learn things, and that's the way it is. I have a natural tendency to step back and observe this stuff and be informed of it. I think this Vernunft and I can't remember the other term, the reason and the understanding, it's been very conscious to me. I remember learning a couple years ago about a training that Buddhist monks go through where I think it's defined as lucid dreaming, where they're in a meditative state, and they meditate and meditate and meditate, try to be very conscious of, and they have these visualizations that they do, so that this is all trainings. When they go to bed, they dream, and they are lucid and conscious in their dream and everything that's happening in their dream, so that they can change their dream. But they're well trained. They're highly well trained. They don't just go on an egomaniacal dream trip where they make everything happen the way they want it to. And I think this has to do with being conscious of our feelings as they arise. I remember a counselor telling me when I said that I wanted to quit smoking. She's an old family friend, so I wasn't seeing her as a counselor. She was a counselor. And she said, well, just remember that whatever feeling comes up, whenever the feeling comes up that you want to smoke, just remember that that feeling will pass. And I think we have to be careful with this, because we can let our feelings pass and we don't act on them, and then we've missed the opportunity. That could have been the opportunity to flower, to truly blossom. And I think we get to a point where life seems to dry up into a wasteland because those spontaneous feelings don't come up like they used to in our youth. And I think this is related to our understanding and our reasoning, in that I can learn so much that I categorize everything into a reason or an understanding, or all these. It just becomes enslaving, because I understand so much, then I'm not living anymore. And I'm reminded of people who throw themselves into crazy situations over and over and over, and it just seems as though um, they're trying to regain a life that they'd lost, as if they had lost their life and they were compensating and making up for it. So they throw themselves into an antagonistic situation where something has to arise up. I had to learn about this with my back injuries because I forced myself into work even though I knew it was bad for me, and then I'd end up injuring myself. And um, I had to really I had to make a decision, and an honest decision to not throw myself into a situation that will force something to happen, but then I also have to take the consequences. But then all this self-analysis can drain the joy out of life. It comes back to that great fear, I think. It's just the fear of losing. Um, and I think the fear of losing is just another archetype, one of those main eternal things. The fear of life, loss of love, loss of wealth, loss. For me, I came to understand that through my losing, I understood the true value of a thing. But then when I understood the true value of a thing, I was no longer consumed and possessed by fleeting feelings. There became a type of hierarchy of importance. Through my experience, I realized, well, I could be really angry right now at this situation, but I'll go channel it over here, and then I won't have to direct it straight here. And then I can preserve this, channel what feelings I have over here, and that was all informed out of the loss. Having lost it before, learning to regain it again, and then cherishing it, respecting it. But for me, it doesn't stop the feelings. I still get all the feelings. And I realized that what this does is it leaves me alone in a lot of ways, because I'm not sharing with people what they're looking for. I came to understand that when somebody pisses me off, it's usually because they want to piss me off. And they may not even be aware of it. They may not have the understanding of their reasons behind their behavior. They're just spontaneously pouring forth these feelings. And if they don't understand the reasons, they're not even concerned with the consequences. This is why I realize that, there are certain people that do not know they take their life in their hands when they behave a certain way. And then I started thinking about, some of the great martyrs of the 20th century that, they hid behind a religious connotation, but ultimately it just killed them. It got them killed. And I do not see the life affirming in that. I think the affirmation of life is a self-consciousness, a self-awareness of it, a realization and understanding of the reasons for our behavior. Otherwise, it's more like the plants and the animals, where they're just repeating the same thing over and over and over, and they're not thinking about results.